Is there anyone we can call for you, honey? She asks for the third time in the past hour. Rosalind shakes her head, though the movement sends fresh tears sliding down her temples into her sweat-damp hair. I already told you. Damien Thorne. The number's in my phone. The nurse exchanges a glance with her colleague by the door, and Rosalind catches it. That look. The one that says they think she's delusional. That they think the name she keeps gasping between contractions belongs to some deadbeat who won't answer. Or worse, some fantasy she's constructed to cope with being alone. We've called that number 4 times, the older nurse says from the doorway, her voice gentler than her words. It goes straight to voicemail. Another contraction builds, a wave of agony that steals Rosalind's breath and her dignity in equal measure. She hears herself cry out, an animal sound she doesn't recognize, and when it finally crests and breaks, she's sobbing. Please, she whispers. Please keep trying. He's coming. He promised me he'd come. The nurses don't respond. They don't need to. Their silence is answer enough. 3 floors down, in the hospital's administrative wing, a different conversation is taking place. The night supervisor, a woman named Gloria, who has worked at Riverside General for 23 years, and has seen everything from miracle births to heartbreaking stillbirths, stares at the phone number on her screen with growing unease. You're sure this is the name she gave? Gloria asks. The young nurse nods. Damien Thorne. She's been asking for him for hours. Says he's her husband, but there's no marriage certificate in her file. No emergency contact listed besides this number. Gloria's finger hovers over the call button. She knows the name. Everyone in Thornfield knows the name. Damien Thorne owns half the city. The shipyards, the old textile mill that's been converted into luxury apartments. The sprawling estate on Blackwater Ridge that nobody local has ever been invited to enter. He's a recluse, a legend, a man who appears at city council meetings in impeccable suits and writes checks that keep the hospital's children's wing operational, but who has never, in Gloria's memory, been seen in daylight. This is ridiculous, Gloria mutters, but she makes the call anyway, because a woman in labor is asking, and because something in that young nurse's voice suggests the patient upstairs truly believes this call will bring salvation. The phone rings once, twice. On the third ring, a voice answers, and Gloria nearly drops her receiver. Speak! The word is sharp, commanding, edged with something that makes the hair on Gloria's arms stand up. Mr. Thorne? Gloria clears her throat. This is Riverside General Hospital. We have a patient here, Rosalind. She glances at her screen. Rosalind Finch. She's in active labor, and she's been asking for you. She says you're her husband. The silence that follows stretches so long Gloria thinks the line has disconnected. Then, what did you say? Your wife is in labor, Gloria repeats, something in his tone making her emphasize each word. She's been asking for you for hours. The connection cuts off. For a moment, Gloria sits in her office, staring at the phone, wondering if she'd just made a terrible mistake. Then she hears it, a sound like thunder, though the night outside is clear. The building's front doors don't just open. They slam inward with enough force that the security guard stationed there stumbles backward, and even 3 floors up, Gloria feels the reverberation through the floor. She runs. By the time Gloria reaches the main entrance, a crowd has gathered. Security, nurses on break, a handful of visitors who were about to leave, all frozen, staring at the figure that has just entered Riverside General, as though he owns it. Damien Thorne is not a man who enters rooms. He commands them. He's tall, easily 6'4", wrapped in a black coat that moves around him like smoke, and when he walks, people scatter. Not because he pushes them, he doesn't need to. There's something in the way he moves, in the pale intensity of his face, in eyes that are too blue, too bright, too ancient to belong to anyone human. Where is she? His voice cuts through the lobby's shocked silence like a blade. Gloria finds herself stepping forward, even though every instinct screams at her to stay back. Mr. Thorne, I'm the one who called. Your wife is on the 3rd floor, but... She doesn't finish. Damien is already moving, and Gloria has to run to keep up, her sensible shoes squeaking on the linoleum as she hurries after him. Behind her, she hears whispers, the rapid-fire click of phone cameras, the rustle of staff trying to decide whether to follow or flee. The elevator is too slow. Damien stares at the closed doors for exactly 3 seconds before turning toward the stairwell. He takes the steps 3 at a time, his coat billowing behind him, and Gloria, panting, tries to keep pace. "Mr. Thorne, you need to understand. She's in active labor. She's asking for you, but the medical team hasn't been able to reach—" "Which room?" "314, but you need to—" He's gone, down the 3rd-floor corridor before Gloria can finish her sentence, and she watches him move like wind itself, like something that doesn't obey the normal rules of time and space. Nurses press themselves against the walls. A doctor drops his clipboard. Somewhere, an alarm starts beeping, but nobody moves to silence it. Damien stops outside room 314, and for the first time since entering the building, he hesitates. Gloria, still catching her breath, sees his hand tremble as it reaches for the door handle, sees something cross his face that looks almost like fear. Then he opens the door, and the sound that escapes the room stops Gloria's heart. "Damien." It's barely a whisper, hoarse and broken, but it carries. Rosalind's voice, speaking his name like a prayer, like the answer to a question she's been asking for hours. Gloria watches Damien cross the threshold and knows, with the certainty of someone who has worked in hospitals long enough to recognize miracles when she sees them, that everything is about to change. Inside the room, Rosalind can barely see through her tears. Another contraction is building. She can feel it gathering like a storm in her spine, but none of it matters because he's here. Damien is here, and the world snaps back into focus. He's at her bedside in an instant, his hand cool against her burning forehead, and she feels him shaking. "I'm here," he says, and his voice cracks. "Rosalind, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I was in Prague, my phone. God, I'm so sorry." She tries to laugh, but it comes out as a sob. "You said you'd come. Always." His other hand finds hers, wraps around her fingers with a gentleness that belies the barely controlled fury radiating from every line of his body. "I will always come. Do you understand me? Always." The young nurse who doubted, who exchanged glances with her colleague, stands frozen in the corner. She's watching Damien Thorne, this man she's seen on the news, on billboards, in the society pages of the Thornfield Gazette, cradle a patient's hand like it's made of glass and stardust, and her entire understanding of reality is quietly rearranging itself. "I need to examine her," the nurse manages, her voice small. Damien doesn't move. His eyes, when they turn to the nurse, are not human. They're too bright, pupils too wide, and there's something in them that is very, very old. "Then examine her." The nurse approaches on shaking legs. She checks the monitors, checks Rosalind's dilation, and when she speaks, her professional mask is firmly back in place. "You're at 8 centimeters. We're getting close. The doctor's on his way." Rosalind makes a sound that's half laugh, half cry. "I can't, Damien, I can't do this." "Yes, you can." He's stroking her hair now, and the gesture is so tender, so completely at odds with the predatory power emanating from him, that the nurse has to look away. "You're the strongest person I've ever known. You can do anything." "I'm scared." "I know." He leans down, presses his forehead to hers, and when he speaks again, his voice is pitched only for her. "I know you're scared, but I'm here now, and nothing will harm you while I draw breath. Do you believe me?" Rosalind nods, and the contraction that's been building finally crashes over her. She screams, gripping Damien's hand with enough force that she should be breaking bones, but he doesn't flinch. He holds her through it, murmuring words in a language she doesn't recognize, something old and flowing and strangely beautiful, until the pain recedes and leaves her gasping. "What was that?" she pants. "What language?" "Old Norse." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. "My mother used to sing it when I was afraid." The door opens, and Dr. Patterson sweeps in, a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He takes one look at Damien Thorne standing at his patient's bedside and stops. "Mr. Thorne," Dr. Patterson's voice is carefully neutral. I wasn't aware you and Ms. Finch were... She's my wife. Damien doesn't turn. Doesn't take his eyes off Rosalind. And someone is going to explain to me why I had to hear from a hospital administrator that she was in labor, instead of from her assigned medical team. The temperature in the room drops. The nurse in the corner actually shivers. Dr. Patterson clears his throat. There appears to have been some confusion. Ms. Finch's emergency contact information didn't list, then someone made a mistake. Each word is precisely enunciated, and Dr. Patterson, who has performed surgeries on senators and delivered babies for half the city's elite, takes an involuntary step backward. Because my wife has been in pain, alone, asking for me, for hours, and nobody thought to try harder. Rosalind squeezes Damien's hand. It's okay, she whispers. You're here now, that's all that matters. But it's not okay, and everyone in the room knows it. Gloria, still hovering in the doorway, makes a mental note to review their emergency contact protocols, because the look on Damien Thorne's face promises consequences. Dr. Patterson, to his credit, recovers quickly. He's a professional after all. He approaches the bed, snaps on gloves, and examines Rosalind with brisk efficiency. You're at 9 centimeters now. It's moving fast. We're going to have a baby very soon. What do I do? Damien asks, and the vulnerability in his voice catches everyone off guard. Dr. Patterson blinks. You just stay with her, hold her hand, talk to her. It's going to get intense. Intense is an understatement. Over the next hour, Rosalind learns that pain has layers, dimensions she never imagined existed. But through it all, Damien is there. When she screams, he doesn't flinch. When she curses him, curses the universe, curses the very concept of reproduction, he takes it without complaint. When she's certain she's dying, that her body is tearing itself apart, he leans close and whispers that she's magnificent, that she's a warrior, that he's in awe of her. I can see the head, Dr. Patterson announces. Rosalind, on the next contraction, I need you to push. She can't. She's certain she can't. Her body has nothing left to give. Look at me. Damien's voice cuts through the panic. Rosalind, look at me. She does. His eyes are impossibly blue, ancient and young all at once, and in them she sees centuries of strength, of survival, of power that has outlasted kingdoms and empires. We're going to meet our daughter, he says softly. You're going to push, and then we're going to hold her, and everything else fades away. Do you understand? Everything else is just noise. The contraction builds. Rosalind pushes, and the world narrows to this moment, this room, this impossible, excruciating, beautiful thing her body is doing. Again, Dr. Patterson commands. Big push, Rosalind. Your baby's almost here. She pushes until stars explode behind her eyelids, until she hears Damien's voice breaking as he tells her she's doing it. She's amazing. Just a little more. Just a little more. And then there's a sound. A tiny, indignant wail that cuts through everything else, and Rosalind collapses back against the pillows, sobbing and laughing all at once. It's a girl, Dr. Patterson says, and his voice is warm, delighted. A beautiful, healthy girl. The nurse wraps the baby in a blanket and places her on Rosalind's chest. And for a moment, the entire world stops. She's so small, so impossibly small, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that are trying to focus, to understand this bright, loud new world she's entered. Hello? Rosalind whispers, her voice broken. Hello, little love. I'm your mama. She looks up at Damien and finds him frozen, staring at the baby with an expression she's never seen on his face before. Wonder. Complete, unguarded wonder. His hand hovers over the baby's head, trembling. You can touch her, Rosalind says softly. She's yours too. Damien's finger traces the baby's cheek with such gentleness that Rosalind's heart cracks open. She's perfect, he breathes. You're both perfect. The nurse, who has been quietly cleaning up, glances at Dr. Patterson. We need to do the standard checks. And the birth certificate information. Her name is Lorelei. Damien says without looking away from his daughter. Lorelei Thorne. And the mother's name on the certificate? The nurse asks. Rosalind Thorne, Damien says, and his eyes finally lift to Rosalind's. If she'll have me. The room goes quiet. Even Dr. Patterson, who was preparing to leave, stops. Rosalind stares at him. What? Damien shifts so he's kneeling beside the bed, one hand still touching their daughter, the other reaching into his coat pocket. When he pulls out a small velvet box, Rosalind's breath catches. I was going to do this differently, he says, and his voice is raw. I had plans. Dinner at that restaurant you love. The one with the garden. Music. Something worthy of you. But I can't wait anymore. And I don't want to wait. Rosalind Finch, you've given me something I thought was lost to me centuries ago. You've given me hope, purpose, a future I actually want to live to see. And now you've given me her. He glances at Lorelei, and his voice breaks. Marry me. Please, let me spend whatever time I have left trying to deserve you. Rosalind is crying again, but this time it's different. This time it's joy, pure and uncomplicated. You already proposed, she whispers. 6 months ago. In your library at 3 a.m. when I told you I was pregnant. Remember? I remember. A smile touches his lips. You said yes. So why? Because I need everyone to know. He opens the box, revealing a ring that takes Rosalind's breath away. It's old, she can tell immediately. The kind of old that means centuries, not decades. A sapphire, the color of midnight sky. Surrounded by diamonds that catch the harsh hospital lights and turn them into something magical. I need them to know you're mine, and I'm yours, and that nobody gets to treat you as anything less than the queen you are. The nurse in the corner actually gasps. Gloria, still watching from the doorway, presses a hand to her mouth. It was my mother's, Damien continues. She wore it for 800 years. It's the only thing I have left of her. And I want you to have it. 800 years. The words hang in the air, impossible and true all at once. The nurse's eyes go wide. Dr. Patterson's expression shifts from professional detachment to something approaching shock. Rosalind doesn't care. Let them know. Let them all know. Yes, she says, and she's laughing and crying, and her arms are full of their daughter. And nothing has ever felt more right. Yes, of course, yes. Damien slides the ring onto her finger, and it fits perfectly, as though it was always meant to be there. Then he leans up, careful of the baby between them, and kisses her. It's soft, reverent, and when he pulls back, there are tears on his face. I love you, he says. Both of you. More than I have words for. I love you too, Rosalind whispers back. Dr. Patterson clears his throat. We'll give you some privacy. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Thorne. As the medical team files out, Gloria catches the young nurse's arm. Not a word, she murmurs. Whatever you think you heard, whatever conclusions you're drawing, not a word outside this hospital. Understand? The nurse nods, wide-eyed. But by morning, the whole hospital knows. By afternoon, the whole city knows. Damien Thorne, the reclusive billionaire, the mysterious lord of Blackwater Ridge, has a wife, has a daughter, has been seen in daylight, barely at dawn, as he carried his exhausted wife to a car while cradling a baby with the kind of tenderness that makes hardened security guards look away and blink rapidly. The photos hit social media within hours. Rosalind still in a hospital gown, wearing a ring that royal families would go to war for. Damien, his coat billowing around him, his expression fierce and protective as he guides his family toward a black car that costs more than most people's houses. And between them, just visible in her blankets, baby Lorelei, unaware that she's already the most talked about infant in Thornfield's history, but inside room 314, none of that matters. Rosalind is propped up in bed, cleaned and changed into her own clothes, watching Damien hold their daughter. He's sitting in the chair beside her bed, and Lorelei is fast asleep against his chest, so tiny against his frame that Rosalind's heart actually hurts. "You're good at this," she says softly. He glances up, surprised. "I'm terrified." "You don't look terrified." "I'm very good at hiding it." He adjusts his hold slightly, and Lorelei makes a small sound, a sigh of perfect contentment. "I've lived for over 1,000 years, Rosalind. I've survived plagues and wars and revolutions. I've watched empires rise and fall, and nothing has ever frightened me the way this does." "What, specifically?" "The fact that I would burn this world down if anyone ever threatened her." He says it calmly, matter-of-factly, and Rosalind knows he means it literally. "That I would end kingdoms to keep her safe. That I would give up immortality itself if it meant she lived a long, happy life." Rosalind reaches out and takes his hand. "We're going to be okay. All three of us." "I know." He brings her hand to his lips. "Because I won't allow anything else." There's a knock at the door, and a woman Rosalind has never seen before enters. She's older, silver-haired, dressed in an elegant suit that probably costs more than Rosalind made in a year at the diner where she worked until she got too pregnant to carry trays. "Forgive the intrusion," the woman says, her voice cultured, precise. "My name is Catherine Ashford. I work for Mr. Thorne." "I didn't call you," Damien says without looking up from Lorelei. "No, but the entire internet is currently melting down over photos of you leaving this hospital. And I thought you might appreciate some damage control." Catherine's expression softens slightly as she looks at the baby. "Congratulations, by the way. She's beautiful." "What kind of damage control?" Rosalind asks. Catherine turns to her, and Rosalind is struck by how kind her eyes are. "The press is going to be relentless. They're already trying to dig into your background, Miss Finch." "Thorne," Damien corrects quietly. "Her name is Rosalind Thorne." Catherine's lips twitch into something that might be a smile. "Mrs. Thorne. They're going to want interviews, photos, statements. They're going to camp outside your home. I can make that stop." "How?" Rosalind asks. "By giving them something." Catherine pulls out her phone. "A carefully crafted statement. A single photo, taken on your terms. And an announcement that Mr. Thorne has established a significant donation to Riverside General's maternity ward in honor of his daughter's birth, along with new protocols to ensure no patient's emergency contacts are ever mishandled again." Rosalind glances at Damien, who is still focused on Lorelei. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do." His voice is soft but absolute. "What happened tonight, what almost happened, will never happen to anyone else. Not here. Not anywhere I have influence." Catherine nods, like this is exactly the answer she expected. "I'll draft something and send it for your approval. In the meantime, there's a private exit you can use when you're ready to leave. And I've taken the liberty of having your home prepared for a newborn." "What does that mean?" Rosalind asks. "It means there's now a nursery," Catherine says. "Fully stocked. I took some liberties with the color scheme. I hope you don't mind pastels." Rosalind starts to protest that it's too much, but Damien cuts her off. "Thank you, Catherine. That was thoughtful." After Catherine leaves, Rosalind shifts to the edge of the bed, reaching for Lorelei. "Can I hold her?" Damien transfers their daughter with exquisite care, and Rosalind cradles her close, breathing in that new baby smell that everyone talks about, the one that's already imprinting itself on her soul. "I can't believe she's real," Rosalind whispers. "I can't believe any of this is real." "I can't believe you chose me," Damien counters. "I'm a monster, Rosalind. I'm going to live long enough to see civilizations we can't imagine yet. And you," his voice cracks, "you're going to grow old. You're going to leave me. And I still can't bring myself to regret a single moment of this." Rosalind looks at him, at this impossible man who calls himself a monster, but holds his daughter like she's made of clouds and starlight. "Then we make every moment count," she says. "We live so completely, so fully that however much time we get feels like everything. And when you're gone, you'll have her." Rosalind glances down at Lorelei. "And maybe she'll have your, what do you call it, your longevity. I don't know." Damien's expression is troubled. There's never been?" Another child? Not in 1,000 years. I thought I was sterile. I thought whatever changed me also took that away. He reaches out and traces Lorelei's tiny hand with one finger. She's a miracle, in every sense of the word. They sit in silence for a while, just the three of them, while outside the room the hospital continues its endless rhythm of crisis and healing, birth and death, ordinary miracles and everyday tragedies. Finally, Damien speaks. I need to tell you something. Rosalind looks up. Okay. The reason I was in Prague, the reason my phone died. He runs a hand through his hair, and she can see he's struggling. There was a situation. Old enemies. People who want what I have, who want to see me destroyed. I had to handle it personally. And did you? Handle it? His smile is sharp, dangerous. They won't be a problem anymore. Rosalind should probably be disturbed by that smile, by what it implies. But she's held their daughter for the past 9 months, felt her grow and kick and somersault. She's pushed her into the world through pain that felt like dying, and she knows with absolute certainty that she would do anything to keep this baby safe. Good, she says simply. Damien blinks, clearly surprised. Good? You protected your family. That's what matters. He stares at her for a long moment, then leans forward and kisses her forehead. How did I find you? He whispers. How did I get this lucky? I'm the lucky one, Rosalind counters. 6 months ago I was serving coffee at a diner and living in a studio apartment with a broken heater. Now she gestures vaguely, the ring on her finger catching the light. Now I'm apparently married to a vampire lord with a castle and a daughter who might be immortal. Estate, Damien corrects. Not a castle. And I prefer the term vampire lord to vampire. It has a certain gravitas. Rosalind laughs, the sound surprising her. 24 hours ago, she was terrified, alone, certain she was going to give birth in a hospital where nobody believed the father of her child would come. Now she's laughing in a hospital room with said father while holding their miracle baby, and nothing has ever felt more right. When can we go home? She asks. Dr. Patterson said 24 to 48 hours if everything continues well. They want to monitor you both. Damien settles back in his chair. I'm not leaving until you do. You haven't slept. I don't need much sleep. Damien, I said I'm not leaving. His tone brooks no argument. I failed you once tonight. I won't do it again. Rosalind wants to argue, but she's suddenly so tired she can barely keep her eyes open. The adrenaline is wearing off, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion that feels like it might swallow her whole. Sleep, Damien says softly. I'll watch over you both. You promise? Always. He moves to the bed, careful not to jostle them, and presses a kiss to her temple. Sleep, love. We're safe now. All of us. Rosalind closes her eyes, Lorelei warm against her chest, and lets herself drift. The last thing she hears is Damien's voice, low and melodic, singing something in that old language again. A lullaby, maybe. Or a promise. With Damien, they're often the same thing. When she wakes, it's to the sound of voices in the hallway. Harsh, argumentative voices that make her tense even before she's fully conscious. Beside her, Damien goes very still, and when Rosalind glances at him, his expression is carved from ice. Stay here, he says quietly, already rising from his chair. What's happening? Nothing that concerns you. But his hand is on the door handle, and there's something coiled in his posture that makes Rosalind's pulse quicken. Damien opens the door and steps into the hallway, and Rosalind hears a woman's voice, shrill and demanding. I don't care who you think you are. I'm her mother, and I have a right to see my daughter and grandchild. Rosalind's blood goes cold. Her mother. Of course, she should have known this was coming. You have no rights here, Damien says, and his voice is winter itself. Rosalind is an adult. She's made her wishes regarding you very clear. That's because you've poisoned her against me. You've filled her head with lies and isolated her from her family. Her family is sleeping in that room behind me. You are not part of it." Rosalind shifts carefully, trying not to wake Lorelei, and manages to sit up enough to see through the partially open door. Her mother is there, dressed in the kind of outfit she wears when she wants to make an impression. A floral dress, pearls that are probably fake, her hair styled in the way she's worn it since Rosalind was a child. And beside her, looking uncomfortable in an ill-fitting suit, is her older brother Marcus. "Rosalind!" her mother calls out, catching sight of her. "Rosalind, baby, please! I just want to see my granddaughter. Is that so wrong?" Damien doesn't move from the doorway. "You told your daughter she was throwing her life away. You told her she was a fool for keeping the baby. You called her—" He pauses, and Rosalind can hear the rage simmering beneath his controlled tone. "A variety of things I will not repeat. You made it clear she was no longer welcome in your home. And now you want access to the child you told her to abort?" The hallway goes quiet. Rosalind's mother's face flushes red. "I was upset. I didn't mean— You meant every word." Damien's voice is soft now, deadly. "And Rosalind has moved on. She has a life now. A family. One that actually wants her. You can't keep me from seeing my own daughter. I can, and I will, unless Rosalind explicitly tells me otherwise." Damien glances back at Rosalind, his expression gentling. "Do you want to see them, love?" Every eye turns to her. Her mother, her brother, 2 security guards who have apparently been drawn by the commotion, and several nurses who are pretending not to watch while absolutely watching. Rosalind looks at her mother and feels nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a vast, empty space where family is supposed to be. "No," she says clearly. "I don't." Her mother's face crumples. "Rosalind, please. You told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life," Rosalind continues, her voice steady. "You said I was ruining my future, that no decent man would want me once I was used goods with a baby." She sees her mother flinch at the words thrown back at her. "Well, look around, Mom. I found a decent man. Better than decent. I found someone who loves me, who wants me, who showed up when I needed him. And you didn't. So no, you don't get to meet your granddaughter. You don't get to pretend you were supportive all along. You made your choice 6 months ago. Now I'm making mine." Her brother shifts uncomfortably. "Rosalind, come on. She's your mom. You can't just—" "I can," Rosalind says, "and I am. Now please leave before you wake up my daughter." Damien doesn't say anything else. He doesn't need to. He simply closes the door, quietly and with finality, cutting off her mother's protests and her brother's half-hearted attempts at mediation. When he returns to the bed, Rosalind is crying, but not the way she expects. She's crying with relief, with release, like something heavy has finally been lifted from her shoulders. "I'm sorry," Damien says softly, sitting beside her. "I should have handled that differently. I shouldn't have—" "You were perfect," Rosalind interrupts. "You said everything I've wanted to say for months. Thank you." He cups her face gently, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "You're done apologizing for them. You're done making yourself small to accommodate people who don't appreciate you. Understand?" Rosalind nods and Damien leans in to kiss her, slow and sweet, a promise and a claim all at once. When he pulls back, he's smiling. Besides, Lorelei has a grandmother. My mother's sister is still alive. She's been dying to meet you both. "Your mother had a sister?" "Has," Damien corrects. "Aunt Marguerite. She's formidable. You'll love her." Over the next day, Rosalind discovers what it means to be married to Damien Thorne. It means nurses who were dismissive before now trip over themselves to accommodate her. It means Dr. Patterson personally overseeing every checkup. It means a private room that's more like a hotel suite, with actual food brought in from restaurants instead of hospital cafeteria trays. It means, most importantly, Damien never leaving her side. He holds Lorelei when Rosalind needs to sleep. He helps when the lactation consultant comes by and Rosalind is struggling. He changes diapers with the grim determination of someone who has faced down actual monsters and refuses to be defeated by an infant's bodily functions. "You're surprisingly good at this," the lactation consultant says, watching Damien carefully support Lorelai's head while Rosalind nurses. "I'm a quick study," Damien replies, not taking his eyes off his daughter. On the second day, Catherine returns with documents. Marriage license, birth certificate, paperwork for adding Rosalind to various accounts and properties. The numbers make Rosalind's head spin. "This is too much," she says, staring at the trust fund Catherine has set up for Lorelai. Damien, this is ridiculous." "It's a drop in the bucket," he says calmly, "and she's our daughter. She deserves every advantage." "She deserves parents who love her," Rosalind counters. "The rest is just noise." Damien looks at her for a long moment, then smiles. "How did I find you?" he asks again, and this time it sounds like a prayer. When they finally leave the hospital, it's just before sunset. Damien insists on waiting until the light is dim enough that it won't hurt his eyes, and Rosalind doesn't argue. She's learned that while he can tolerate daylight, it's uncomfortable in ways he doesn't like to discuss. The car waiting for them isn't what Rosalind expected. She was imagining something sleek and expensive, maybe a limousine. Instead, it's a large SUV with heavily tinted windows and car seats already installed in the back. "Safest vehicle on the market," Damien explains, seeing her expression, "and I had it modified. Reinforced frame, bulletproof glass." "Are we expecting people to shoot at us?" "I'm not expecting anything. I'm just being prepared." Rosalind wants to laugh at the absurdity of it all, bulletproof glass for a baby coming home from the hospital, but she can't quite manage it. Because as ridiculous as it sounds, she knows Damien isn't joking. Knows there are dangers in his world she's only beginning to understand. The drive to Blackwater Ridge takes 40 minutes, winding through the city and then up into the hills. Rosalind watches the scenery change from urban sprawl to manicured suburbs to something wilder, more untamed. Trees close in on either side of the road, old growth that speaks of land that's been carefully preserved. "How much of this do you own?" she asks. "Most of it." Damien is driving with one hand, the other resting on Rosalind's knee. "I bought it over a century ago, kept it wild on purpose." The estate, when they finally reach it, takes Rosalind's breath away. It's not a castle, as Damien insisted, but it's close. Stone and glass and old wood, sprawling across a hillside that overlooks the city below. Lights are already on inside, warm and welcoming, and Rosalind can see figures moving behind the windows. "Who's here?" she asks. "Staff," Damien says. Catherine arranged for a few people to help during the transition. A chef, a housekeeper, a night nurse if you want one. "I don't need a night nurse." "Then she'll leave tomorrow. But tonight you need rest. We both do." The car stops at the main entrance, and Damien is out in an instant, circling around to help Rosalind with Lorelai. She's awake now, eyes wide and curious, taking in this new world with all the seriousness of a tiny philosopher. Inside, the house is exactly what Rosalind expected, and nothing like it at all. Old but comfortable, full of furniture that looks antique because it is, artwork on the walls that probably belongs in museums. But there are also soft blankets thrown over chairs, books stacked on tables, a fire crackling in a massive fireplace that must be original to the house. "Welcome home," Damien says softly. A woman emerges from what must be the kitchen, older, with a kind face and flower on her apron. "Mr. Thorne, and this must be Mrs. Thorne and little Lorelai. I'm Helena. I'll be helping with meals and such. I've prepared dinner whenever you're ready." "Thank you, Helena." Damien's hand finds the small of Rosalind's back. "Would you show Rosalind to the nursery?" "I'll bring her things up." The nursery is on the second floor, down a hallway lined with windows that overlook the forest. It's perfect. Pale yellow walls, a crib that looks like it could survive an apocalypse, shelves already stocked with books and toys. There's a rocking chair by the window and a changing table, and every single thing a baby could possibly need. "Catherine works fast," Rosalind murmurs. "She's efficient," Damien agrees, appearing behind her with bags. Do you like it? If you want to change anything? It's perfect. Rosalind turns to face him, Lorelei still cradled in her arms. All of this is perfect. I keep waiting to wake up. You're not dreaming. Damien sets down the bags and crosses to them, wrapping both of them in his arms. You're home. Where you belong. Where you've always belonged. That night, after Lorelei is fed and changed and sleeping in her impossibly perfect crib, Rosalind and Damien lie in bed together in the master suite. It's huge, with a 4-poster bed that could sleep 6 people, and windows that show the city lights below like fallen stars. Tell me something, Rosalind says into the darkness. Something true. Damien is quiet for a moment. I've been alone for so long, he finally says. So long that I forgot what it felt like to want something beyond survival. And then you walked into that city council meeting 6 months ago, with your petition to save the community center, and you looked at me like I was a person instead of a monster, and everything changed. Rosalind remembers. She'd been terrified, standing in front of the council with her homemade poster board and her rehearsed speech. And Damien had been there, in the back of the room, watching. When the council had voted to shut down the center anyway, he'd approached her afterward with an offer. He'd fund the center himself if she'd have dinner with him. She'd thought he was insane, or predatory, or both. Instead, he'd been earnest and awkward, and surprisingly gentle. He'd told her about the city's history, about the buildings he'd watched rise and fall, about the people he'd known and lost. And when she'd kissed him in the parking lot afterward, acting on impulse and probably poor judgment, he'd looked at her like she'd performed a miracle. I didn't know you were a vampire, she says now. Not for weeks. I know, that was refreshing. When did you decide you were going to marry me? The 3rd date. You laughed at something I said. I don't even remember what, and I thought, I want to hear that sound for the rest of my life. However long that is. Rosalind rolls over to face him, and even in the darkness, his eyes catch the light. I love you, she says. I know I say it all the time, but I need you to know. I love you. Not because of all this. She gestures vaguely at the room, the house, the life he's given her, but because you showed up. At the hospital, tonight with my mother. Every single time I've needed you, you show up. Damien's hand finds hers, threading their fingers together. I will always show up, he says. That's what love is, I think. It's the showing up. The rest is just details. They lie in silence for a while, and Rosalind thinks about the strange path that brought her here. The bad relationship that ended with her broke and alone. The job at the diner that barely paid rent. The city council meeting she almost didn't attend. All the small decisions and coincidences that led to this moment, to this bed, to this man who calls himself a monster but holds her like she's precious. Damien, she says into the darkness. Thank you for everything. For her. For this. For making me feel like I matter. Rosalind. He sounds pained. You do matter. You matter more than anything. You and Lorelei. You're my entire world now. Everything else is just backdrop. From down the hall, they hear a small cry. Lorelei, waking up, probably hungry again. Rosalind starts to get up, but Damien is already moving. I'll get her, he says. You rest. Are you sure? Positive. He's already out of bed, pulling on a shirt. Besides, I need to practice. I have 1,000 years to make up for. Rosalind watches him disappear into the hallway, this impossible man who has lived through centuries and survived things she can't imagine, now padding down a hallway in bare feet to comfort his crying daughter. And she thinks about how love changes everything, how it can take someone ancient and jaded and worn down by time and make them new again. She hears Damien's voice from the nursery, soft and soothing, singing that lullaby in Old Norse. Hears Lorelei's cries quiet, then stop completely. And she closes her eyes and lets herself drift, secure in the knowledge that they're safe. All 3 of them, held together by something stronger than time, or circumstance, or the weight of history. In the morning, she wakes to find Damien in the chair by the window, Lorelei asleep on his chest, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. He looks tired but content, and when he sees Rosalind awake, he smiles. "Good morning," he says softly. "How long have you been up?" "A few hours." She was fussy. "I didn't want to wake you." Rosalind gets out of bed and crosses to them, settling herself on the wide arm of the chair. She looks at her daughter, her husband, and the view beyond the window, the forest, the city, the world spread out before them full of possibility. "This is real, right?" she asks. "All of this? It's real?" Damien shifts Lorelei carefully and wraps his free arm around Rosalind. "We're real! This is our life now!" "I could get used to this." "Good." He presses a kiss to her temple. "Because I'm not letting you go. Either of you. Not for anything." And Rosalind believes him. Because Damien Thorne, vampire lord, ancient and powerful and impossibly wealthy, has proven over and over that when he makes a promise, he keeps it. He showed up at the hospital. He defended her against her mother. He built them a home and a life and a future. He showed up. And that, Rosalind thinks as she watches the sun climb higher, turning Damien's pale skin golden, is all that matters. Not the money or the house or the ring on her finger. Just the simple fact that when she needed him, he came. He'll always come. That's what love is.